Then you're good.
Hey, Gator fans. Well, the Gators beat the Central Florida Golden Knights 24-13 last night in the Swamp. I want to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly right now. So let's get into it. Okay, so the good, we won. But in all seriousness, okay, so listen, I don't think you get flowers for winning a game that you should win, right? And this was a game the Gators should win. I understand that Vegas has us as a dog at home. I understand that UCF thinks that they are on par with the other teams in the Big Three. I understand that Gator fans were concerned about getting a victory. I was too, because Florida has not played well this season. But Florida should always beat UCF. And so none of the things I just matter ever change that fact. So again, you don't get flowers for winning a game that you should win, but I think it's infinitely better than the alternative. And on Saturday, there were a lot of things that I think Gator fans can feel good about. I usually start with the offense when I do this breakdown, but I'm going to start with Florida's defense today. The central question coming into this game was, could Florida's defense stop the prolific run game of the Golden Knights? And the answer we saw yesterday is a resounding yes. Let's talk about quarterback. The Gators held KJ Jefferson to minus 18 yards rushing on 12 carries. Yes, I know sacks factor into that. 5 sacks from this Florida defense. 7 tackles for a loss. Florida only had 8 sacks total going into this game, 4 of those against Samford. And they had 23 tackles for a loss this entire season, several of those coming against Samford. So this was a dominant performance for this defense for the very first time this season. Jefferson was 12 for 22 for 165 yards, no passing touchdowns, and he had an interception. The rest of the running back committee responsible for the second best rushing yards per game average in the nation, which, by the way, was 326 yards per game going into this game on Saturday, was held to only 108 yards on 40 carries. And probably most important of all, Florida limited explosive plays. This is another specialty of UCF, and Florida's defense kept it under control, both statistically and by the eye test, which, that's what Gator fans like to go with a lot of the time is the eye test. We are kind of over, some of the press conferences that have happened in the past where we've been gaslit about well, look at the stats and blah, blah, blah. And we will say, okay, great. But we look bad. Our defense looks bad. Don't try to convince us that what we're seeing isn't what we're seeing. We passed the eye test this week, y'all. This was the best defensive performance of the season so far. Players were flying around. So much emotion on the sidelines. And guys, this was something we so needed to see. I've sat in those stands every single game this year and just said, I need to see proof of life. Show me you want to be here. Show me you're mad. Show me you're happy. Show me something. They did that. This defense did that. This looked like a different defensive team in terms of energy that they were giving off. Listen, this team got better during the bye week. And credit to Coach Napier. He told us they got better during the bye week, but I think a lot of us are sick of the words and we want to see the action. We saw the action. They came up with 2 big 4th down stops. Those led to 10 points for the Gators in the first half. That was huge. Florida's defense only gave up 3 runs of 10 yards or more. This was improvement. And a lot of guys had big plays. It was not just, a couple of guys stepping up. A lot of guys had a good day yesterday. Jordan Castell, Shamar James, they both had 6 tackles apiece. Jack Pyburn seemed like he was all over the field. Tyreek Sapp, RJ Moten, Pup Howard, Cam Jackson, Jason Marshall Jr. The list goes on. A lot of guys contributed. Shout out to Bryce Thornton for that interception to seal the game. Really proud of this defense. Really feel like they stepped up. This didn't look like the same defense that we have seen at points in time during the season. Does it mean that we turned a corner? I don't know. We're going to have to see against some tougher competition down the road. But on Saturday night, they looked like they'd turned a corner and they took care of business. They did what they needed to do. Now let's talk a little bit about offense. Florida, if you're looking at just the first half of this football game, I think you would be really happy with Florida's offensive performance. And going into halftime, you had to think like, this team is fully in control. And, the Gators were never not in control on Saturday night, but I do feel like the second half of the game left a little to be desired on the offensive side of the ball. Graham Mertz was 23 of 28 for 229 yards and 1 touchdown. He also had 3 carries for 11 yards, including one where he just, got that first down, stood up, signaled the first down, and, was kind of feeling himself a little bit there. And it wasn't necessarily something we expect to see out of him. And he just has so much grit and so much heart. And he is such a good leader for this team that makes it fun to watch. And then he got DJ Lagway, who every time he touches that ball, it's like art. He was 4 for 4 for 50 yards, 3 carries for 11 yards. Both of them are good quarterbacks. And I still don't love the scripted rotation. I still don't think that it's great for continuing momentum, but kudos to both of them for getting the job done. They both do exactly what's asked of them, and that's all we can ask for as fans. Special teams did their job. Trey Smack hit a 50-yarder, also missed a 53-yarder, but that's, pretty long one, so that's okay. Jeremy Crawshaw was very good. I want to say he averaged just over 45 yards a punt. That's a great average. All the special teams units did their job. I wouldn't say there was something that just stood out to me that was like so incredibly spectacular, but they accomplished the mission, right? They did exactly what they needed to do. I want to talk a little bit more about this offense. I wish the offense hadn't stalled in the second half. And I know what Gator fans are thinking. You guys would prefer that we keep the pedal to the metal for a whole 4 quarters. And I am with you. That's the kind of football that Florida fans love to see. But we also know Napier is a conservative coach, and that's generally not what we're going to see from a Napier coach team. But, I think that's something that Florida's going to have to work on, because if you watch some of these games this season and these crazy comebacks that have happened, UCF had their own against TCU, right? We watched it last night with Cal. They were up by 25 points and Miami ends up winning by 1. So I do think this philosophy of kind of just cruising in the second half is one that's going to continue to need to be evaluated, because it's not going to work against tougher opponents. Guys, before I get back to the game, I want to tell you, go to the comment section of this video, the description of the video. I talk about my Patreon channel. There's a link there. You can click it to join. Anytime I get like hot tidbits of information and stuff, I put them there, and you guys will be the first ones to know. So if you want a little bit of inside scoop, or you just want to support the channel, go find the link in the description of this video and sign up. We've had a lot of you sign up over the last few days. I'm excited to build a little community there. And I appreciate your support for sure. Okay, so what does all of this mean? UCF is not a great football team. And there were some baffling calls by Gus Malzahn yesterday, including where he went for 1 instead of 2 on their lone touchdown. I literally sitting there running the math, trying to figure out how he was looking at it. And they're just, I could not figure it out. And I know UCF fans sometimes love Malzahn, sometimes hate Malzahn, and sometimes are incredibly baffled by Malzahn. And I feel like there were some moments of that yesterday. But a win is a win. Florida was a dog to an in-state little brother at home, according to Vegas. The Gators took care of business in front of a pumped-up, sold-out crowd. Shout out to all of you guys that were in the stomp, because it was rocking from the moment kickoff happened until the very end of the game. And as I said in the beginning of this video, you are not ever going to get a whole lot of praise from me for beating the teams that you should beat, particularly year 3 of a coaching administration. But during a season where it appears that wins are going to be pretty hard to come by, this was a good win. This team improved over the bye week. They got better. Now, have they turned a corner? We're about to find out. Now begins an insane SEC gauntlet that kicks off against Tennessee in Knoxville next Saturday night. The Vols are going to come in pissed off because they were just beaten by an unranked Arkansas team last night. But if the Gators are looking for any little glimmer of hope, any positivity from me, it's that Florida's defense shut down UCF's prolific rushing offense. So maybe they can do the same thing against Tennessee. Now, I know many of you guys are watching what's going on right now in the tropics. Tropical storm Milton over in the Gulf is really concerning for a lot of us on the west side of the state. I'm in Tampa and I'm starting to take precautions now. I just want to let you guys know before I sign off, I'm thinking about all of you and I'm hoping for a weaker storm than is currently being predicted. I hope you guys all pay attention to your local authorities and your weatherman and you get all the hurricane supplies you need. You evacuate if that's what you're told to do. Definitely going to be thinking about you guys this whole week. Fingers crossed we keep power over here. I will continue to bring you Tennessee coverage as the week goes on. And as always, go Gators.